So let me start with the business, then we're going to talk about that kind of technical stuff. So as some of you know, that Yahoo started as a web portal, right? At the beginning of our life, it was a bunch of the editors decided, what is the best articles for everybody in the globe. Now, now with the evaluation of technology and our leadership, now what we try to deliver is for each individual users, we try to deliver the best experience for that user based on their interest. So for example, this is the I was just screenshot I was just taking a few seconds ago from our Yahoo homepage, right? So thinking about it, like some of the articles sound like very easy to pick, even our editor will pick, right? It's a big picture story over there. But if you go down the middle here, like talk of Yosemite, sounds like this audience is near this area, so must they realize that I'm interested at that event on the fire stuff. In the bottom over there, there's articles about the hard work about big data, IPOs, or stuff. So clearly, Yahoo has some magic to try to understand what me as an end user like to read, or try to find those interesting informations to engage a user. Same thing, all the other side over there as well, right? So in general, so in order to deliver all those experience, big data is the fundamental technology for Yahoo. That is why several years back, Yahoo decided to invent or jump-start the technology called Hadoop, right? So we did Hadoop, all those things. It's not really for the sake of technology. It's really tried from the business competition point of view, right? So thinking about the amount of if we have several hundred million active users, and the user take various actions at our website and with our services, we are, it's not really a big brother per se, but we are, understand what the user is doing at our site, and organize, understand the user's stuff. So we will perform the data analytics stuff, try to find the best ads for the user to see, so that the user will click, then we make some small amount of money out of that, user interaction stuff. And we, again, as I mentioned earlier on, we wanted to provide the personalized user experience for our user. So in order to do all those things, so that's the big data is really the fundamental technology for us. So maybe until last year, I would say, when we talk about big data at Yahoo, we are really on the talk about Hadoop. But with the technology enhancement, I think we are, Yahoo, from the big data point of view, we are moving into the next phase. So that's why we, as in the industry, we are the first players jumping into this thing called Hadoop, next-gen Hadoop thing called Yang. So at this point, as we have over 30,000 production machines deployed, with Hadoop Yang as a resource manager. And on those 30,000 machines, as of today, the majority of those applications is a MapReduce application on Hadoop. But there are the new applications are jumping into that production machines. And I think it was several months ago, we started to put the streaming low latency big data processing things on Storm. So we made the Storm available on Yang platform. Just last few months, we have been working very closely with our friends at the AmpLab on the Spark on Yang. So for us, Spark is a very interesting technology. I will go through some of the use cases to explain why Spark is interesting. And we have been working closely with the AmpLab, try to make the Spark available on Yang. I think in some way, from our point of view, I guess this slide, if you could put that label like remove it, in some way, it's very similar architecture that our friends from the Twitter presented, right, in this morning. In the Twitter slides, you saw there was the solid layers on the bottom, and then the resource managers in the middle, and a bunch of different applications. From Yahoo point of view, from our point of view, Yang is the preferred resource manager for us. So anyway, so the next few slides, I will walk through some of the use case. We think that Spark and it's the ecosystem give us some of the advantage. So let me start with the simple one first. So as some of you already have had fun this afternoon, right? So the Shark. So in some way, Shark is an easy entry point for Yahoo. So in some, we have all of the data there from business guy, from our executive, from businesses, they are all from advertiser. There are endless amount of the questions they wanted to ask, right? So until, several months back, what we have done was pre-generate a bunch of the answers. We pretend we know what's the question people wanted to ask. So we apply MapReduce job, generate those nice, beautiful, pages for advertiser, for our executive. Now with the technology like Shark, that enable us to, enable our executive, our business owners to ask whatever the business questions they want to ask. Some of the questions here, right? So, for example, our business owners may want to decide, when you launch a new, like our front page, they wanted to look in the different angles to find some answers based on all the huge amount of data we have. So for that purpose, one of our team at Yahoo, decided to jumpstart a pilot project with Spark, with Shark. So at this point, that team has a 50 nodes Shark cluster running over there with some a few terabytes of data in it, and that enable enable the end users using the business intelligence tools such like Tableau or the MicroStrategy to ask also the ad hoc questions. And that pilot project turned out to be quite meaningful from that team point of view. So that got our attention. So we at the Hadoop team, then we say that all those the competing technology exists in this Shark SQL analytics against the big data. So we wanted to take a look to see how does the Shark compare with the other similar technologies. So for that reason, several weeks back, a small number of us, we decided, there was a well-known benchmark tool, benchmark exit, TCP-H benchmark. Then we decided to play with the Hive, various version of the Hive and the Shark. I guess to our surprise, the number turned out to be right. Turned out to be in the advantage of the Shark at this point. So the number here in the logically the higher the number over there is the latency for the average latency for the SQL query. So in the column here is the various combinations of the various setting of the Hive or Shark. The lower bar means logically is the shorter response from our benchmark. So at this point, look like, Shark 0.7 in this benchmark, is winning the competition at this point. Okay, so from that point of view, I think we are continuing that, pilot project to adopt the Shark for, for some of our advertising analytics project. So that's one side, right? So then now that we had the attention, we noticed the Shark is useful. Then some of us we started, how about more interesting things, Spark. So okay, so then we pick another project. Remember, from Yahoo point of view, targeting is very important, right? So we want to decide, so in the targeting land, we decided to do a model training side, pick up a pilot project. Over there, historically, we had a bunch of the Hadoop streaming script has been written to generate those models. And so logically, it's a simple DAG, and with various steps, such as like a feature extractions, training models, scoring analysis kind of stuff. So again, we kind of was within our small cluster, like a few dozen nodes, Spark cluster we created, and then we compared it. We made this small change to leverage the Spark, RDD stuff. So I think it was a code change was like, less than 50-line code change. We did not touch the Hadoop streaming code itself at all. We just the superficial portion of the MapReduce invocations. Instead of using the native Hadoop, we just using Spark. With that, we got for the feature extraction phase of the project, we got the 3 times speed up. So with that, at this point, what we doing is, so the pilot itself was on for the first phase of this pipeline. At this point, we are expanding that pilot project to cover the full phase. And then we're going to run the expanded Spark pilot on 80 machines, 80 node cluster. And at that point, our team was a little bit nervous to say, in some way, Spark is a newcomer in our large cluster. So we were nervous about all those operation costs associated with it. So that's why we have been working, again, we reached out to our friends at the AmpLab. So, we wanted to address various, to make this Spark easy to operate for our team. So in the Spark 0.8, you will notice various enhancement in the UI matrix stuff. I hope hopefully that is beneficial for many of you as well. So if you step back, logically, for this sense, what it enables us to do is, we are using this Spark in the model training stuff. Then the model generated by the Spark is used in our ways to produce what we internally call the user interest graph. So kind of it's the Spark on logic, it's like this Spark and working together with the Hadoop, Storm, those things. As a result, we will be able to produce a better user interest graph. So again, now with this, honestly, we were a little bit surprised to see this 3-time increasement by changing a few lines of the code. So with that, we say maybe there's a better use case for Spark. So this is another use case we are trying out. So remember in our page, in many of the services, we try to recommend services, articles for our users. From the naturally collaborative filtering make lots of sense, right? Especially for the new users, So you want to see, based on source user with a similar interests, they like this set of the articles. So from that point of view, we believe you like this set of article or services. So again, you need to do a lot of the machine learning stuff, and then from those machine learning to generate some model at the end, you want to be able to present top X something. So at this point, again, we are going down the path of using Spark to give it a try. I feel like this is logically this is an iterative programming model, so it should be a better fit for the Spark. At this point, we do not have any number to share yet, but hopefully the exercise will be meaningful. Then at some point, we will be happy to share our number. So with all those exercise, we feel it is the Spark ecosystem. It could have useful positions in our Hadoop ecosystem. So from that point of view, we have been working with AmpLab on this Spark on Yarn. So our intention is to make it to launch a Spark cluster very easy. So in our remember, I said earlier on, we have like 30,000 nodes or even, like you do not necessarily want to set a separate Spark cluster to do your job. Because once you're going down that path, all your data movement, you're going to make you crazy, right? So from that point of view, we work on this thing called Spark on Yarn. It's for people who are not familiar with, please give it a try. It's really easy to use. Logically, this is like if you jump into the Spark website, you will see some documentation on it. Logically, what you need to provide is your jar applications and the main class, and and a few parameters to indicate which Hadoop queue you want to submit your job, how many workers you need, what's the memory consumption you want to allocate for those workers. With that, you should be able to just launch your things, on magically, without your Hadoop operator knows, you're all of a sudden you're running Spark job in your Hadoop cluster. Right, so this is a slide here intended to show how the job gets done. Logically, you as the user of the application owner, you just launch your job, and then that we're going to start your Spark application master. From there, all of the related Spark process going to launch inside your cluster. At the end, all of your job get executed. When the job finished, everything going to just disappear, and nobody going to know what happened, and you're just going to have your magic answer from your for your business. And I think it was maybe 2 weeks back, Leonard showed us some articles about some other company actually, Taobao in China actually earlier put this thing in their production. So this look like, I think it's going to be an interesting journey for the Spark, Hadoop community come together here. So that's basically the story I wanted to share. And before I leave, I just wanted to say, what happened? I just want to acknowledge all the work, all the standing work has done by the AmpLab team. On behalf of Yahoo, we really appreciate the close collaboration, and also, it's really good to, for our various team at Yahoo, we are kind of working together with you guys, and look forward to on the journey. Thank you. Any questions?
On your chart, performance chart in the beginning, you showed caching versus no caching, and it didn't seem like caching made any difference. Do you have any idea why?
I think just, it's all the caching stuff really depend on your applications, right? For this, I think particular benchmark look like, caching does not make much difference. I would say, there's a certain other use case could, as the, the AmpLab focus said, could even 100 times, improvement. But this one just happened to be the case. Does not make much difference.
Okay. So each Yarn application in this case, it's a full Spark cluster, or it's like an individual Spark pipeline?
What do you mean?
So like an application from Yarn's perspective, you have like an application master. There, do you have an application master per like Spark deployment across the cluster, or do you have an application master per like job?
Oh, you're talking about the Spark on Yarn, right?
Right.
So the current implementation of the Spark on Yarn is for each of your Spark logic, for each of your Spark applications, we just simply launch a set of different nodes to do the job. And I think in the future revisions, what we intended to is separate those two phases. First phase is going to be launch a cluster, like let's say you want to launch a cluster of 100 nodes. Then once those nodes are up, then you could submit different Spark jobs. And
Okay.
this was our first easy starting point to see whether we could bring them together or not.
Okay, so in the future, you would have multiple application masters running against the same Spark service. Cool.
Hi. In your ad target, that architecture, you use the Spark right now for the model training only. Any comments on future utilizations, perhaps Spark streaming and others in the other functional areas?
Yeah, so Spark streaming certainly is an interesting, technology, especially if Spark is the choice you have, right? And at this point, I think we believe Storm is a slightly more mature technology, and over the last several months, Storm has a huge adoption at Yahoo. So I think we will reevaluate that decisions in a later point. But at this point, we are happy with the Storm.
Thanks again to Andy and Yahoo, one of our most compelling use cases.